So today's question is, yo Elliot, how do I stop sabotaging my relationship? So the very first thing I would say, my man, is that's a pretty broad question. People sabotage for different reasons, but your question reminded me of a conversation that I had with one of our King Transformation clients just a few weeks ago. He was talking about how he tends to pick fights with his girlfriend. And I try to relate to him the fact that when you first get into a relationship, there's a lot of emotion involved. You're feeling good, you're feeling excited about yourself, excited about the relationship. If you're having sex, there's all kinds of emotional baggage associated with it, right? You're thinking about her when she's not around, you're craving her. When you're with her, your mouth is watering. All this emotion, the relationship is wrapped up in feelings, and that's usually the case. But at a certain point, the feelings begin to wane. And so one of the means by which you can keep the spark going, and when I say spark, I don't necessarily mean like a good spark. This is the kind of spark that will not just light a fire in your relationship and keep the kindles burning, but it'll burn your goddamn relationship up, is to find other ways to stimulate emotion. And one of the ways to stimulate emotion in your relationship is to start looking for reasons to complain, to nag, to whine, to fight. In an unconscious way, you become addicted to the feelings associated with that person. And it doesn't matter what kind of emotion it is, as long as there's something there. So for example, I once heard that children that are brought up in abusive homes thrive better than children that are brought up in emotionally void homes. So basically, parents that ignore their kids damage them more than parents that are fighting with their kids. A reason why is because there's still some sort of entanglement there. There's stuff going on. There's feelings associated. And wherever there's feelings, there's entanglement. Wherever there's feelings, there's bondage. Good bondage and bad bondage, right? And so as long as there's bondage, we crave it, being closer to that person. You see this in, they make the joke that like Latin chicks do this a lot. They pick fights because they like the feeling of the excitement that's associated with fighting. David Dita talks about this in his book, The Way of the Superior Man, that a lot of women, they shit test their man, or they argue with their man, they nag their man, they fight with their man, just so that they can get that emotional feeling, that emotional high, that climax, because a lot of times, they say that post-fight sex is the best sex, right? Oh, your emotions are coming to a climax, and then you start bumping uglies, and now you're feeling good about yourself. So in a way, it's a form of effeminacy. Effeminacy meaning addiction to good feeling, needing to have some sort of stimulation in the body, seeking novelty, seeking something different, just seeking excitement. And so when you find yourself in that place where you're picking fights or you're sabotaging a relationship, a lot of times it's out of boredom or it's addiction to feeling. You're seeking excitement. Now, there's a way to avoid that completely. Well, number one, avoiding it by being a man, growing up, realizing that life isn't all about excitement. Life isn't all about feeling. You don't constantly have to be passionate. You don't constantly have to be feeling something for you to be alive, right? People say, I want to feel alive. I want a relationship that makes me feel alive. Well, that's weakness. You don't need that. You got to be rational, and you have to have a plan. You got to have a reason why you're in a relationship with the person that's bigger, that's far beyond just the sensations associated with either being happy and excited with the person or being angry and jealous and burning up about the person. There's got to be more to the relationship than the feelings, than the feeling body, than the emotions. And this is where you got to go to your head. In the same way that someone who's investing, they buy a stock because it looks like a good stock. They buy some real estate because it looks like good real estate. But the minute things start getting turbulent, right? The market starts going crazy. If they're wise, for the most part, I'm not an investor, so don't take my advice. If they're wise, they hold on to the stock because they've got a long-term vision for it. They realize, whoa, I'm not going to let the market turmoil affect my emotions so that I make a rash decision about this stock. I know what I want. I want 10 years from now for this stock to yield something. When you're dating a woman, you got to know why you're dating her. It can't be because she looks good on your arm. It can't be because she smells good. It can't be because she gives you sex. It's got to be for a good reason. And in my opinion, the only good reason to date or to court a woman is to marry her for a long-term investment, for making babies, having children. And if you know that's your long-term, if you have that long-term vision, you're not going to throw things away. You're not going to throw things at her. You're not going to use her as an emotional punching bag for excitement if you're holding out for the long term. I think a lot of the reasons why the relationships fail in our current generation and time is because most relationships are merely entertainment. And what happens with entertainment? What happens with your favorite TV show? It gets boring after a while. Most entertainment wears out. What is your relationship worth beyond the entertainment, beyond the feeling, beyond the sex? Here's just a little mind exercise for you. If you're dating a woman and you're convinced that this is a good woman for you to be with, ask yourself, what happens if I stop having sex with her? What happens if I stop having emotional intercourse with her, right? Doesn't even have to be the sex, but the sex just throws the emotional intercourse, that emotional entanglement, that emotional neediness into hyperdrive. But just imagine that all that was cut off. I like to say, love with your mind, think with your heart. Do you see where I'm going with that? Loving with your mind means it's not an emotional love, it's a rational love. It's a commitment love. It's a long-term love. It's love with a reason beyond sensation. So there you have it, my man. That's my advice with regard to that. If you stop fighting with her or you stop so-called sabotaging your relationship by getting into emotional turbulence and tornadoes, and you or her start getting nervous, start losing interest, then you know that that relationship is not a rational relationship. It's not a good relationship. It's a dependency relationship. It's a neediness for novelty and good feeling relationship. And that's not the point of relationship. You're better off with no woman than being in a relationship that's toxic. Done.